Starting over, a proven plan for success. If you feel like you're starting over in today's marketplace and you're wondering, hey, do I have the right plan and know exactly what to do in order to see success right now in my business? You're listening to the right episode of the Loan Officer Freedom Podcast. And today I'm going to be hosting the podcast. Carl and I are excited to be talking about a 90-day plan. And if you were starting over, hey, what would you do? And so you're listening to the number one podcast in America for loan officers. And today you're going to walk out with some practical steps and just a real thought provoking episode. And I'll tell you where it came from. So I hosted a lunch and learn, actually not a lunch and learn, it was a top producers panel for the Houston Mortgage Bankers Association this last week and absolutely loved it. Some of my dear friends are literally the top producers in Houston. So I got a chance to moderate the panel and really come up with good questions and help people that came or loan officers are saying, hey, what are you doing today to have big success? And one of the questions that I put together was this. It said, if you found yourself back at square one with a challenge of funding loans within 90 days, what would you do to ensure success? And that's what I wanted to talk about today, because when I was researching for the panel and moderating it and just making sure that we had solid information to present to everybody who attended, it was fascinating. And I want to share the statistic with you because Ingenious posted their numbers for 90 days ago. So it's a roll in 90-day numbers. And so they go in and look at all the originators and data and they post it and say, okay, what's going on? Where's everybody at? And it is fascinating because this question is probably one of the most relevant questions in today's marketplace. If you found yourself back at square one, with the challenge of funding loans in just 90 days, what would you do to ensure success? Ingenious posted the report in 90 days ago. Listen to this: 67% of every originator in the United States funded less than one transaction for the month. Man, 67. Listen to this. What was it? 20, yeah, it was 21% only funded 1.5 units for the month. And only 12% funded more than 2.5 units for the month. And I just thought to myself, man, it's the right question to be asking, because you're literally talking about massive, like 80, what is it? 88% of the loan officers in America funded less than 1.5 units for the month. And so, you know what I wanted to do? I just wanted to look at it and say, okay, for those of you who might find yourself starting over, and listen, so many people right now are starting over. It's just a restarting over. It's a revamp. And what a great time to do it at this time of the year is going in and saying, okay, whether you've been in the business a year, 5 months, 10 months, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you might be in a spot where you're saying, hey, I got to start over. What am I going to do? And so here's what I wanted to do. Let me just share with you some of the things that I would do. I am not only a partner with Carl White, but I've also got a production team that we started 28 months ago. And so I made a shift to a brand new company, started over from zero. I took it was myself, no producers, and 6 of my production staff, or actually like support staff. And out of the 6, 4 made it. So 2 ended up not coming all the way through the transition with me. So it was myself and 4 support staff, and we started 28 months ago. And in my first 12 months, we funded 57 million. And then as we're recording this right now, 2023, we funded 392 units for $112,543,000, average 32 units a month. And we did that in our second year of growing the production from literally starting over at zero to what it is. And I got to tell you, I've had a lot of chance to look back because we grew 51% over the first year, and that started from 0 to 57 million to 112 million, and then I believe we're going to get far surpass that this year. And, you know, when I look at it, I was a little disappointed that we didn't grow more than I thought we could. But man, I'm celebrating that we had 51% increase in the toughest mortgage environment we've ever seen. And I say all that to say this: when I look back and I'm talking to people that are joining our production team, or I'm talking to people on the production team, or I'm talking to other great loan officers I get to talk to on a daily basis, you know what I'm realizing? So many of this industry are starting over. And so I thought I'd do this just based on the experience of what I was able to help lead. And man, I have such a great team. But what I thought I would do is, drawing from the experience of growing 51%, what would I do, or what would I tell somebody starting over, knowing that 88% of this industry is starting over because they're actually funding less than 1.5 units a month? And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay out, and it's super simple, a great plan. But if I were starting over and I were looking back and I was saying, okay, Steve, what would I do to fund loans in 90 days? I'm going to give you that plan. So here's what it is. I really would focus on two areas. Number one would be agents, because we know that agents, like, there was a massive survey done and it said, how did you get to the lender you're currently working with to close your transaction? 35% came from the realtor relationship. 27% came from their friends, family, and sphere of influence. And what I recognize is 67% of the market actually comes from realtors and database. So what I would do if I were starting over today, if you literally picked me up out of everything that we've built for the last 28 months and said, okay, Steve, you got to start over again. Number one, I would have two focuses, and that's it. Number one is agents, and number two is my database. So here's what's really good: you don't need 50 things. You just need one or two things. Number one is, I love agents. And, I've heard a lot of people say, well, I'm doing social, and I'm doing builders, and I'm doing CPAs and financial planners, and I'm doing all of these things, which is good and fine. But I got to tell you this: I think of my time as a printing press. Um, and I've got a printing press machine. It prints dollar bills. It literally prints US currency. So, but the challenge is it can only print one currency at a time. So I can have this thing pumping out dollars, or I can have it pumping out hundreds of dollars, like $100 bills. And I think of your time like a printing press. And listen, hey, you can be productive with CPAs, financial planners, divorce attorneys, social media. I see people that are wildly successful on social media done right. But here's the thing: if 35% of all the people got to their loan officer through a realtor, I'd rather print a $100 bill than a $10 bill. And this is just my opinion, not to be controversial, but man, I'm going to share with you what Steve Kiles would do if I had to start over. Number one, I think agents are the number one source of relationally referred business. And right now, there's such a chasm, such a big divide between the agents that are producing and the agents that are not. There's no real in between. Either they are killing it or they're starving. And so I think right now we've got to recognize, and I did a whole class called Loan Officer Blueprint for our membership. If you're a member of the Mortgage Marketing Animals, go back and listen to my Blueprint class, where I talked about the 11 value adds for agents. And it's things that we're already doing, being a part of the Marketing Animals with the daily success plan, and it's the real-time referral program, and it's the realtor DSP, and it's our relationship with MoveTube and our AI CRM for loan officers, and it's our special programs and products. But there are things we already have that we think are a little bit ordinary, but literally can be extraordinary. Because I'll tell you this: agents don't have a process to prospecting. And I'll give you an example. I talked to one of my top producing realtor friends, and he killed it. Like, as a realtor, he did over 60 transactions this last year in 2023 in a tough year. And I said, hey, Brandon, what are you doing with your database? And when I started talking to him and saying, hey, how was your year? I was all right. It's not as good as he wanted it to be. Hey, what are you doing in 2024? This, and this. And I said, well, what? Okay, I love all that. What are you going to do with your database? He said, what do you mean database? And I began to roll out what some of the things we're doing in our database in the daily success plan. And literally his mind was blown. He's like, dude, if I did that, I'd get more transactions. And what I love about realtors is not only are they the number one source of business that's relationally referred, everything we have agent animals, we have done for you content, the real-time referral program, the DSP for realtors. We've got the ability to help coach our agents into activating their database. We do our Monday calls, our pre-approved and looking, our Tuesday just ask. Everything we are doing is a value add process, system, and structure, removing chaos from our agent relationships and allowing them to get even more business and make more money. And that's what a partnership with me does. It's, hey, working with me, my realtor partners make even more money. That's what our partnership does. So I love agents. I think agents are the number one target. And number two would be our database, man. These are already people that know, like, and trust you. They've already done business with you. All you've got to do is stay top of mind, and they want to refer you business. So when we go to our agents, knowing that those are the two I'd focus on, because I got 90 days and I'm going to give it everything I've got. Number one is this. I would get my qualified focus 40. So if you don't know what qualified focus 40 is, hey, book a time at freedomplanningcall.com, freedomplanningcall.com. One of us will jump on a call and we'll help walk through the focus 40. We'll walk through, the done for you content and some of the things I was just mentioning a few minutes ago. But here's what it is. A focus 40 is a list of 40 agents that are actively working with you. They refer you and they close a loan at least every 90 days. The goal is, some of you may have zero, some may have, 10 qualified focus 40 agents, some of you may have 20. The goal is, over the course of your career, to have 40 relationships, and you may not even want that many, but a target of up to 40 qualified agents that are actively referring you. And at that point, you've got a business that's well over a $2 million. Like, it's a remarkable business. We don't need everybody. I'm just looking to build my focus 40. And they go on there if they refer me. And then if they close a loan within 90 days, if they don't, they got to come off my focus 40. So when I'm thinking about agents, I'm doing my Monday calls in this order. Number one, who's my current qualified focus 40 agents? And one of the things I really want to challenge you with is, I was working with one of the Sarah's a fantastic loan officer on my team. And Sarah and I worked together, and we were talking about our qualified focus 40 list, and she had 47 rolling into the new year. And I said, all right, let's get in and let's make sure they're still qualified. Listen to this. 47 were qualified when we put them on the list within the last 6 months. Only 11 are qualified now. And it's like, well, no wonder when you see leads coming down, like your lead count's going down, but you still have a large list of agents that know, like you, trust you. They're going to refer you everything they get. The problem is they're just not getting any business. And so in my 90-day plan, what I've got to do is look at my qualified focus 40 list and make sure those agents are still qualified. If they're not, doesn't mean you don't touch them. It just means they can't have your outbound sales call activity on Monday, my 9:30 to 11 during call stars, or 9 to 11 if you're on the West Coast for call stars. They can't have my core 2-hour outbound prospecting time. That's reserved for qualified agents. And then I've got a whole process we can show you about how it's actually 9 steps to stay in touch with unqualified agents, which is a huge way to make sure that you're still getting their business. Go to freedomplanningcall.com, ask the team for it. We'll give it to you. So number one, when I'm looking at Monday calls, my agents who I'm going after, it'd be the qualified focus 40, the ones that are currently referring me business. The second, I would look back and I'd say, who have I done business with over the last 12, 24, 36 months? Heck, I might even go back to the last 5 years, because the name of the game is, are there relationships that are close to you or that used to work with you, but just have simply fallen off? Because guess what? You know what I did? I haven't been doing my part to reach out. So I'm looking for any past realtor that is qualified, which means they've done 8 or more buy-side transactions. And let me tell you this, I wouldn't just go after the ones with 8. I would go after the ones with 36, 42, because look, I promise you this, you are enough. And if you get a chance to capture somebody and spend 10 hours courting and going after and really recruiting this agent to my team, and they only do 8, or I could have spent the same 10 hours and gone after somebody who does 20 or 30 buy-side transactions. Go after the whales, go after the big ones, because I promise you this, you've got a process to prospecting, and it is super attractive because you're removing the chaos, you're being consistent, you're showing up, you're following up, you're doing everything that the other loan officers are not doing. Go after the big ones. So I'm going for number one, my current Focus 40 that's qualified. Number two is who have I worked with in the last 12, 26, 30, or 24, 36, maybe 5 years? I want to go after the ones I've touched in the past that I could wake up. The next one is who are the listing agents I've worked with in the last 12, 24, 36 months? I'm going to go after those as qualified. And then the next thing I'm going to do is this: if that's still not enough agents to go after, then what I want to do is I want to go in and ask my agent partners, my relationships, hey, who do you know today? Who do you have? I went to title this last week. I was meeting with some agents, title reps. Hey, who is a qualified agent, which means they do more than 8 buy-sides a year, that you think I could work with, or you heard had a bad experience, or is looking for someone? I would look for an introduction from somebody from title, from your home inspector, your insurance, your B&I group, heck, the people you're already working with. Who could they introduce you to so that it's not a cold call? And the last thing is, if I don't have enough qualified agents, baby, I'm getting a list from Richard Smith, qualifiedagent.list.com, and I'm going to get a list of agents, and I'm going after the whales. I'm going to go after the big ones, because look, if I go after somebody who does 8, or somebody, I may have to get 10 of you. But if I go after somebody who does 40 buy-sides, I only need about 3 or 4 of you. And so I promise you this: you are enough. Go after the big agents. If I were starting over, I needed 90 days to fund my first transactions. Agents would be my primary focus. And I'll tell you this: I'd call more than Mondays. I know Monday is our theme day. I do Monday for agents. I do my anybody in process calls on Tuesday. And with the extra time I got, I would absolutely go after more agents. I'd do my database on Wednesday. If I got any extra time, I'd go after more agents. I'd do my pre-approved and looking on Thursday. After that, I got any extra time, I'm going after more agents, because agents are the linchpin in today's environment. And I promise you this: you have so much value that sets you head and shoulders above any of the other loan officers in this industry. You have to believe it, take action, make the call, reach out to the great agents. And I'll tell you this: only 16% are going to say yes, and that's okay. I don't need a whole bunch. If I call 10, 1 to 2 will start working with me. If I call 100, literally, I'm talking about anywhere from 16 or so will start actually working with me if I'm meeting with them, building relationships. I don't need a bunch. I need a few. Every realtor relationship's worth about, if they're qualified, $30,000 to $40,000 a year. So just remember this: our conversion that we typically see is 16% of the agents we meet with, we do our 12-week follow-up with, we follow the process, run the play, start actively referring us, and out of that, that's how we've made a fortune. So number one is the agents. And hey, if you need help with a plan, go to freedomplanningcall.com. Number two is I would focus heavily on my database. I got to tell you, it is the linchpin. I was talking to, somebody great, Dave Wicke, and I were talking this week. We were doing a 10-year vision map. And man, he was sharing with me, he joined the Marketing Animals in June and July, refocused his business. 43% of his business as of today has come from his past client database, because he's woken it up over the last 90 days. And I got to tell you, I'm so proud of Dave. But what he did was, man, he called a little bit messy. He recognized, hey, I may not be perfect in it, but if I will make the phone calls, I'll mail monthly, I'll do weekly email updates, and then I'll text periodically, that I'm going to wake up my database. And right now, to date, he is closing an extra, I think it's like 4 to 5 transactions a month just from his database. And so I just want to encourage you: if I were starting over, what I would do is got to make sure I'm going after the right agents. And I would start with the ones I'm currently working with, the ones I've worked with in the past. Then I would do listing agents. I would ask for introductions, and finally go after cold. Most of you've got so many of the top 4, you don't even have to go after agents you don't know. I would wake them up aggressively, making the calls, having the talk tos, meeting for coffee, doing Zooms. And I would proactively follow, just with everything in me, the play that we've laid out, we already know has proven results. So agents one. Number two, starting today, I would sharpen my database and call them every Wednesday. And I wouldn't do 2 letters of the alphabet. I probably would do, for me personally, I would look at how many are on there, and I would break it up to where I called everybody in my database within the first 30 days. every Wednesday, because in those calls, you're going to wake it up. I'd have a mailer out this next week. I don't care if it's the best mailer, no mailer, like it's not good, it's good. It doesn't matter if it's a recipe card, doesn't matter what you send, but I'd have a mailer out the door. I would call all of my database within 30 days, and then I would start the weekly email updates, which isn't as effective, but it works. And then I would do my periodic text with information, birthdays, celebrations, anniversaries. And I'm telling you, you can wake that database up in short order. Those are the two things I would focus on. And I'll tell you this, once I got my first closings and first dollars, I would put a few dollars in my pocket and I would get a part of coaching. You know, people ask me all the time, why should I join coaching? Because we help you get there faster. The challenge is you're in the day to day, you're pushing, you're fighting, you're making the phone calls, you're having good and bad conversations. Some of you are doing too much of your own processing, some of you are in the weeds. And the challenge is without a coach, you're not able to see the obstacles or the challenges or the little tweaks that if you made just a little tweak, that one little tweak would make a 10x difference in your business. And so for me, once I had my first closing, once I got my first dollars, I would get involved with coaching. And if that means Jumpstart to begin with and then Freedom Club after that, coaching is absolutely critical because we remove obstacles, and where it would take you years, you can get there in months. And so for me, if I were starting over and I had 90 days to see big success, I would target agents, I would go after my database, and I would be a part of coaching. And for those of you who say, hey, I just need something to tiptoe into, get into the Loan Officer Breakfast Club. Frank does a great job with that, but you got to just move towards what's going to help you get the biggest results. The Breakfast Club, then into Jumpstart, from Jumpstart into Freedom Club, and then I would just continue to see massive results. So I hope that helps you. Wanted to share just from personal experience what we're doing, what I'm challenging my loan officers with, what I'm challenging the loan officers I get the privilege to talk to on a daily basis. Get back to the fundamentals. And I promise you this, if you like social, you like videos, you like all that other stuff, do it once you get your first fundings. And the best way, the fastest way that gets you fundings and results right now is agents in your database. I hope that helps. Remember, if you need help with a plan, script, anything that you heard, go to freedomplanningcall.com, freedomplanningcall.com. We'll give it to you. It's our gift. And from Carl, myself, and the team, we just want to say we're honored to be on the journey with you. Hey, do me a favor. If you feel like this is helpful, share it with 2 other loan officers you know need a strategy to get started today, to begin to get fundings today. That would mean so much to me and Carl. Forward this episode to 2 loan officers so we can help give them a plan in order to ramp up their business as well. Remember this, anything worth doing anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get started. See ya.